So, hello everyone, and welcome to A Life You Love podcast. I am Melanie Foote-Davis, founder of the Love and Freedom Academy, a heart centered sanctuary where healing and transformation takes place through the transformative power of self love. And I'm really excited to have our guest today, who is a very dear sister friend of mine. I'm going to just give you a brief bio to keep it formal, and then I'll just share a little bit about who she is. So this is my dear sister friend, Lucy Coutinho. And she's a first generation Cape Verdean American educator, inspirational media personality, author, and the founder of Loose Inspiration, which is a company designed to create positive new media, and the author of Pieces of Freedom, a self-healing journal, which is a tool with their own for people to take their personal own self-healing and self-discovery journey. Welcome, Lucy. Welcome.
Thank you. So good to see your face again. It's been a while.
It's good to see your face as well.
Thank you.
So, quick story. So, Lucy and I met at a conference about 2 years ago now, right? I think it was.
Yeah, it could be more. But yeah, around there. Yeah.
At least that. And so we
At
met
least
at the
that.
conference, and people kept saying that we looks like we could be sisters, and actually we had kindred spirits and connected as like sisters, and we've been in communication ever since. We actually did a couple of events together with another sister friend, Dr. Selena, where we were light, love, and emotions, and that was a fun journey, which is still a journey that we will continue.
Mm-hmm. It definitely was fun. I really enjoyed being around you two ladies. Very inspirational and so much wisdom. I'm grateful.
Yes, and yes. So let's get into it. So with a Life We Love podcast, one of the things that I really want is for listeners to be able to tap into the parts of themselves that sets their hearts free, and being able to increase the bliss in their lives and activate more joy, but from a place of pure, authentic joy. Like happiness is one thing, but that's often external, but joy comes from within. And so one of the things that I love about you is you have this light about you and this positive energy, whereas it doesn't mean that you haven't had your share of hardship or trauma or exposure to difficult moments, but you still always find a way to just bring a light. And so just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and about your journey.
Well, thank you, first of all, for that. That's amazing to hear. I have been through my share of adversities and challenges, as we all have, and we all have traumas. I truly believe that every single adult, we were all kids at one point, and we've all experienced some kind of trauma one way or another. I truly believe that it's pretty much how we choose to deal with our traumas and how we come out of it. And the biggest thing for me personally is not to remain a victim. And I always set the intention that I would become a victor in any situation possible, providing that I look for the help that I need, or get counseling, or reach out to friends, or use different healing modalities. And that brings me to why I published my first book entitled Pieces of Freedom, a self-healing journal, is because I've always been an avid writer since I was a child. That was my way of expressing a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow that I had. I lost my dad at the age of 5 years old, suddenly, to suicide. So I never really understood how to deal with that emotion, right? So I turned to my writing, just to help me heal with toxic relationships, decisions that I was making. And just throughout the journey, I always turned to my writing as a way to heal myself and to express and to just dispel of all these emotions that I had inside. And when I published the book, it felt so liberating. And I said, well, I want to share this with the world, with women in particular, women of color, women of the diaspora, and just like really express this new tool that I found for myself in hopes that it can help someone else.
Awesome. And so what I'm hearing is the common thread is it was two things. It was healing and journaling.
Mm-hmm.
And another word I heard was tool. And that says to me that so many times we already have access to tools or things that are right within our reach that can help to move us from one place to another if we're only aware of that. And so how did you discover journaling?
I think I discovered it because, well, writing has always been a natural talent for me. It's something that I always loved to do. And so the more I did it, I felt lighter. So as I'm writing and just writing out my feelings and expressing myself, it's like a sense of lightness came onto me, and a sense of acceptance and love and tolerance and just empathy, all these different emotions. So I was able to transcend all that pain into light, if you will, because I truly believe that there's a point in life where you change is when you're really sick of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of feeling the way that I was feeling. And so I was really intentional about coming out of this darkness and this hole that I kind of dug for myself, So and it was a natural talent that progressed into just noticing how it was really helping me. So I kept doing it, and I wanted to share that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thinking about what you just said with being sick and tired of being sick and tired, which also is a great segue into a quote that I found on your Instagram feed. And it said, freedom came the day I took off my mask and put on my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so unpack that for a moment. Was there anything in particular, a circumstance, a situation that said, okay, today enough is enough, and like this mask is leaving, it's time to unmask and really put on my soul? Because that's a vulnerable place to go.
It is vulnerable because you never know what you'll find.
Yeah.
You never know what you'll find. And the fear is, oh, people won't accept me for who I am, right? So I had this fear that, I needed to be this other person. I needed to be someone else other than who I was, because it made other people comfortable. It made my family more comfortable. It made me more accepting. I just thought I was just so weird. I had all these quirks about me and these differences. But I realized that all of that is what made me who I am. So I was living this life where my personality was not in line with my soul at all. So I'm making all these decisions based on what I think people want from me, or what I think society wants from me, or my family members, or what have you. But the decisions that I wanted to make for myself and what resonated and really set my soul on fire, I just ignored that. And it was, I can't say it was a moment where I was like, oh, I've just had enough of it. It was a progression, feeling really uncomfortable and not really liking myself too much, because I didn't recognize who I was. I didn't know who I was, and that also catapulted me into wanting to know who I am. It was like that. I feel uncomfortable. There's so much unease and just not being happy and satisfied. So I need to figure out who it is that I am. So I went on this spiritual journey, and I always refer back to moving to Washington, D.C. with two of my daughters at the time, just being completely alone, no family, just it was a brand new place, and it was the most amazing time for me because I really got to center myself and focus on who I was and how I wanted to show up in the world and how I wanted to contribute to the world. Like, what is it that's inside of me that the world needs? So that was the whole journey. And I'm still on that journey now, but I'm more settled in who I am. I'm more accepting and more loving and compassionate for who that woman was that is now the woman today. Yeah.
That's kind of yummy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It feels good. It's tasty.
So for those of you who don't know me, I say things like yummy and delicious, and I use yum it up. So you're going to hear that a lot. I'm pretty old school and corny, so you're going to hear me say cool beans also. So thinking about the move to DC, that must have been scary.
It was scary.
Uproot your family and go to a place where you didn't know anyone. With that in mind, what A, were you afraid, and B, how did you feel the fear and move anyway?
I felt the fear, and so this is how I move through life. I always have, and my family's really patient with me in that sense, because there's a spiritual message that comes to me at certain points in my life. And at that point in my life, before moving to Washington, D.C. in 2007, something in me said, it's time for you to elevate. It's time for you to move on to the next phase of your life. There's something that you're in search of, which, I was always in search of myself anyway. There was nothing out there that I was in search of. And that's also another revelation that I had to come to. But I'm very much in tune with myself and my soul and my spirit. And when it's time to move, obviously just calculating and being, and having a strategy, obviously, in how I do things. But when I do feel that feeling, I have to make the necessary changes, and that's what I did. It was scary. I didn't know what I would find, but it was the most amazing experience. I made friends that became my family. I was able to work at a lot of different TV stations, radio stations out there, and I had a great time, and I grew. Not there anymore, but it was for that moment. I was there for 10 years, and it was amazing, and I'm better for it. Yeah.
And so what would you say to somebody who gets that spiritual message?
Yeah.
We all do get it. Like, there's this inner wisdom, this inner guidance, this inner compass that leads us all the time. And it doesn't necessarily speak with logic. And it's terms of, in my experience, I've never had it come with an explanation. It didn't say do this and then, this is why I'm doing this or any of that. It just says do. It's very, very direct and very clear. Whenever I hear it, it just says go, do, leave, that type of thing. It doesn't say, well, what if you do so and so, or have you considered, or why don't you do this and then I'll show you. Like, that's not my experience.
No.
And what I've learned personally is that when I do trust it, all the other questions that I have, they begin to come when the time is right. But I won't know unless I take action first.
The how, the how always comes after, but you have to decide, decide that is what you're going to do. And I think that when we get into the logical side of things, of course, there's millions of reasons why you shouldn't do things. So you sit and, you get kind of paralyzed. You're like, well, I shouldn't do this because what if this happens? What if that? There's so many things that can happen. But I'm a true believer that if I don't do it, nothing will happen. So I don't ever want that feeling where I'm just regretting or wondering what if. The what if of life is probably the saddest thing that there is, so yeah. And just listen to yourself. Like I've gotten so much better at listening to myself. I wasn't really good at that. I would ask advice left and right. I needed everyone's input, but everyone has advice to give you based on their own perceptions, perspectives, and just life experiences. And you can't really trust that too much because it's your life, it's your journey, and only you know what's best.
Absolutely. And the thing is that it's one thing to have, once you've made your decision, like you hear the message, the spiritual message to elevate, and you make your decision. It's one thing that once you've made your decision, if someone has some insight to help support that decision.
Yes, that's different.
When you're hearing different perspectives, because what's happening is they're also, and it's not intentional, but they're also inserting their own fears.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You as well, which can then cloud your judgment. And so too many voices can really take you off the original path of that message that you received in the first place. At least that's been my experience.
Same here.
Yeah, so asking what do you think, and what do you think, it really can cloud my own judgment. And I've learned that it also tempers, I start questioning my trust in myself and my decision when that happens. And
that's right.
Yeah. So when you, like, we all have this intuition, this inner wisdom, this guidance, but it comes to us differently. Like for some of us, it's audible, so we may hear the message. Some of us may feel it, like there may be something in your body where you feel a physical sensation that tells you, it lets us know when we're in danger. It lets us know when something good is about to happen. It lets us know a lot of different things. So sometimes it's a physical sensation, sometimes it's something audible, sometimes it's something visual. Like some people may see it in a dream, some may see signs, or things like that. And then there's this thing which for me is a couple, is this one that I'm getting ready to speak of. Sometimes it's just an inner knowing, and that that you know, and you can't explain it, but you know it. So it's that, and then I sometimes hear it, but then I also sometimes have dreams. But and I'm trusting it is that way. So which way do you typically receive your spiritual messages?
Sure. So because I'm really connected with my body, I get a lot of feelings in my body because everything's energy. And usually when I feel at ease and when I feel at peace is when I know I'm moving in the right direction and things are aligning the way that they should. But when I feel a little discomfort and just like this sensation throughout my body that doesn't feel good, I know that I'm not really making the choice that is really aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing. So I pay a lot of attention to that. But I also want to say too that fear can also creep in. So I try to make sure that that unease and that uncomfortable feeling, is it fear? So I let it sit there for a little while and try to figure out, is this fear and anxiety, or is this truly my body telling me this is not a good idea? So I have to really sit with that and try to decipher the difference. So I do that. And sometimes, like you had mentioned just a little while ago, it is an inner knowing. It's just like, you know it like you know it. And you can't explain it, where it comes from. But I try to be still a lot because I feel like that's where we get the most messages, is when we're still and there's no noise, there's no outside noise, there's no inner noise. So yeah, those are pretty much the two ways I try to look for my answers.
Yeah, that makes me think about the word peace too, because you were talking about alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
typically, when when I'm feeling uneasy about something, it's because something is not in alignment with my spirit. Like they're not in
Mm-hmm.
agreement, and so there is no peace about it. If there's anxiety, there's no peace,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I think many of us ignore, and that gets us into that over analyzing or that feeling the need to talk it over with someone. And it's okay to talk to someone, but be mindful of who we're talking to, because
Mm.
we have experienced them before in other situations. So seek support in places where you get what you're looking for.
I like to say, go where you feel safe. I That's really huge for me. Like, I don't want to, you know, put my feelings out there on the table where I don't feel safe, or I don't feel like it'll be a safe space for it. And I think that, do yourself that favor, make sure that wherever you're going, it's a safe space, because you can leave that situation feeling more confused, just like it's just not a good feeling. You know, you're already feeling confused, and all these self-doubt is going on. Why would you want to deliberately bring yourself deeper into that feeling or that space? So yeah, you're right. That's really important. Yeah.
It is. And you know I love safe space. So
Yes, I'm all about that. Safe space. And I try to be really mindful that I'm creating that for people, because that's really important for me. So I want to always be mindful of creating that space for others as well.
yeah. And then with thinking about alignment and thinking about peace, even
Hmm.
with your book, it's called Pieces, Peaces, not Pieces, Pieces. Tell me about that.
So freedom to me is having peace within, right? So we can't experience freedom without feeling inner peace. We don't really have much without our inner peace. Nothing really works out without our inner peace. Our connections can't really flow without our inner peace. So I think everything stems from that. And so that's why I created that play on words. Like, it was my search, my freedom came from my search of my own inner peace, you know, because it was scattered everywhere, right? So I had to like go and pick up the pieces in order to be free. And that's what I did. And that's what writing Pieces of Freedom did for me. And I want to share that. I want to share that in hopes that it'll impact someone, one person. It would make me happy.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it has, because even listening to your story about moving, right? Let's just, if
Mm-hmm.
people just go back there for a moment. How empowering was that to have that sense of freedom to just say, you know what? The message says elevate. I don't know how you came to choose DC, right? And you're open to share that if you want to.
Yeah, it's a great city. I mean, I knew that as a woman of color, I would go there and thrive. You know, it was a very welcoming city. You know, and I was young at the time. I had all that energy, and I just really felt the pulsating, like, energy of that city. It was like, it almost reminds me of a smaller New York City. You know, it was just beautiful. I would visit all the time and really fell in love with it. And that's what brought me there. I was like, I could really make something here. And that's why I chose that city, because I'm a city girl. I needed to be in a city. So that was like the best of both worlds in a sense. So yeah.
And so you chose DC. Did you have a job first?
I actually, yes, I interviewed. My first job in DC was Fox 5. So I did go there with the job.
So
Yes.
you did go there with a job. And
Yeah.
you packed your babies?
I packed my babies, yes, and we went.
So this is like really exciting to me because there are so many like moving is a scary thing because we can
Oh
get
yeah,
we can we're not even comfort. We can be because we're so familiar with a certain setting, we may not necessarily want to leave it because at least we know what we can get here. But to not
yeah,
only pick up and go to a new place with a new job, and then you're taking your babies with you, right?
yeah.
You're giving your loves and you're taking them to this new place. They're they're in my mind, right? What I'm feeling is a sense of liberation that comes with this adventure that you and your
Yeah,
daughter went on, like just
yeah,
exploring life. So I don't
yeah.
know, maybe I'm loopy, but that's the way I'm seeing it. Like this
It
really,
is an adventure. And looking at my daughter now, I have my daughter, the oldest one, is now 20. And when I moved her to DC, when we moved, she was 7 years old. And now in hindsight, I'm looking at her and how she is. She's so free and she's so vibrant. And she, like, you really can't keep up with where she is. She's in Ghana, Africa right now, you know, living her life, and she goes to NYU. So she's never been afraid of taking those leaps. And I think that, and I think a lot of it has to do with how I raised her too, you know, just don't be afraid to explore yourself and to explore the world, because the world is so big. You know, there's so much to be seen and to be appreciated. And I feel too, when you travel and you're around so many different people, it makes you better relate to other human beings. Like, we feel more connected, more accepting, more sympathy, you know. So I'm really proud of her for that. And I hope, and I'm grateful that I kind of exposed them at an early age, and I'm happy to see what they're becoming, what they are becoming.
because
Yeah.
they've had such a beautiful model. Like you showed them how to live boldly and love courageously,
Yes.
and how you can find the beauty and adventure in that. And so for that, I say thank you
No,
because
thank you.
we can pass down many um, mindsets and ideas and concepts and belief systems and different types of imprints. And for
Mm-hmm.
you to pass down that there's a way to be adventurous, to be courageous, to just accept who we are and go out and explore the world is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift to them.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a beautiful gift. It is. It's a gift for all of us. You
Yeah.
just have to be willing to go and get your gift, wherever that is, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And to share your gifts because we're each
Yeah.
like you are gifts, they are a gift. And so by just going up and showing up as you, they get
Mm.
other people get to experience the gift in you as well,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which has been a part of our exchange.
Yeah.
While we connected, I get to experience you and the beauty of who Lucy is, like to the
Yeah.
and that has been a refreshing exchange, and I'm grateful for
Grateful for you too. I appreciate that.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was another thing I was going to ask you about that I saw on your Instagram, but I think we kind of already covered it. And it was a quote that
Mm-hmm.
you had on there that said, "We have to look inside and find love there first."
Yeah, we do. We
Yeah.
do. I think, you know, where a lot of people are covering this self-love thing, and a lot of people are kind of like coming down on it, saying it's becoming this taboo topic, whatever. But it really isn't, because the best relationship that you can have, and this is what people don't teach you, even growing up, you know, be a good person for who? For other people. Be a good person for who? For a partner. But they don't really hone in on be a good person, or try to get to know yourself or have a good relationship with yourself, because I think that the best relationship that we can have is with ourselves, and that comes with acceptance, accepting yourself 100%, knowing yourself. Get to know yourself. Because when you do, you accept yourself. And when you accept yourself, you love yourself. And when you love yourself, you can love people better. And even better than that, you know the type of love that will match the type of love that you have for yourself. So whatever love comes at you, you're not accepting anything, because you're like, well, the way that I love myself and the standards that I have, that's what you need to match.
Mm-hmm.
And it sets the standard. We have to have a bar somewhere, because when we don't have a bar set somewhere, we stumble, we fall, and that's how we walk through life. And I've been there. And I'm saying all this because I've been there. I didn't always like myself. I didn't always love myself. I had no idea who I was for the longest time. And it was frustrating, but it was only frustrating because it was something that it was work that I needed to do it myself. And that was, it seeped through a lot of the toxic relationships that I had. I couldn't understand why my relationships were so toxic. Well, they were toxic because I accepted anything that was handed to me, because I really didn't have the bar set anywhere. And it was until I set the bar that I started then to choose what I wanted. And I'm in a great partnership now. You know, I consider him my best friend, and the way he treats me is exactly the way that I feel love to be, or that was always my understanding of what I thought love should be. But that had to be work that had to be done by me, no one else. And that's why self-love is important. And it's not taboo. It's not this new trend. It's never going to be, it's not a trend. It's an ongoing evolution that we really need to take seriously. It's here to stay, and it should be here to stay, because we need to pass it down to our daughters and their daughters. You know, like it needs to be passed down. Yeah, very important.
Yeah, well, I have a lot to say about that. So
Yeah, you do.
so it would definitely be more
Right, your whole movement is based on that, right? Yeah.
Because you're right, it absolutely is not a trend.
Mm-hmm.
It's very necessary, and it's something that we weren't taught. I didn't hear the term self-love when I was growing up. I don't even remember if it was a thing. To be honest, I didn't hear self-care growing up either.
No.
So
no. Especially for women, like self-care means you're caring for someone else.
Yeah.
You know, it's always women caring for someone else. Mm-hmm. But then we neglect the fact that to be able to be better caregivers, we have to take care of ourselves, and not just getting a pedicure and a manicure and getting our hair done. It's taking care of our inner being. That's where we need the most attention. How we eat, how we exercise, what we're consuming spiritually, what we're reading, what we're looking at, the environment that we're around, like the people we have around us. That's huge. Yeah. People can be toxic, and you really have to be mindful of who your surroundings are. So it's all that. That's all self-care.
Yeah.
All of it.
Making sure that all of your needs are met, your spiritual needs, your physical needs, your emotional needs, and your financial needs are met. And so if we're just taking care of the outer layers, and we're just working on the nails, the hair, the facials and all of that, then we're not necessarily taking full and complete care of ourselves. It's also another mask at times. So we may feel
it's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, we may feel
it's a Band-Aid
at the moment, but it's not really necessarily healing all of those wounds. And I don't say this to say, oh, well, everybody has some healing to do, but I say that to say we all have some healing to do, right?
No, yeah, absolutely, we all do.
Whether we own it or not, it exists, and it shows up in our relationships. And so when we talk about many of us want to be in relationships with other people, which we are, and we think a lot about romantic relationships, but it's very difficult to have a healthy romantic relationship with anyone when you don't have a healthy romantic relationship with your body,
Yeah.
with your spiritual connection, with your food, with your all of these different things, because our whole life is relationship. It's not just romance, is not the only aspect of our love life. You
No.
know, how do we love ourselves in the way that we take care of our spiritual needs? How do we love ourselves as it relates to us taking care of our emotional needs? How do we love ourselves in terms of caring for our bodies, and not even just caring for our bodies in terms of what we feed it and how we move it, but also what we say and think about it?
Yeah.
You know, how do we love ourselves in our conversations? Most importantly, the
Mm.
conversations we have with ourselves about ourselves, because we're with ourselves 24 hours a day. So we're always hearing our thoughts. And
Oh,
so,
isn't that the biggest one? That's huge. Like
and
when I think about the things that I say to myself sometimes, like, would you say this to a friend? No, you would not. You would be encouraging your friend. You would be telling your friend how awesome and wonderful she is or he is, you know? And I'm always like, well, why can't you be a friend to yourself? Because that's who you're going to be with forever, you know? So we might as well make it the best relationship we can possibly make it. And that's a big one for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
we're on this quest, we're on this journey
Mm-hmm.
to
It's a
deepen
journey.
our love in all of our relationships, starting with our relationships with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The things that would actually set us free, um,
Mm-hmm.
free of shame, guilt,
Mm.
a sense of responsibility, feeling responsible for other people's feelings that cause us to edit who we are to accommodate
Mm.
their ability to receive what we have to offer. All of those different things, you know, giving ourselves the freedom to let all of that go will be
Yep.
huge, will be huge. And those
Yes.
are the things that help to create a life that we actually love. So, Lucy,
Yep.
you know, we could go on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, it's easy to do that.
Where can someone find you, and where can they find your book?
Sure. So my book, Pieces of Freedom, is on Amazon. I do have an updated copy of it. You don't have this version, but as a lot more writing prompts
Mm-hmm.
and just, you know, I kind of revamped it a little bit. And it is on Amazon.com. I am on social media, Facebook, Lucy Coutinho, Coutinho. I'm on Instagram. It's Luce Inspiration, Luceinspiration. And also I'm on Instagram, Lucy_Coutinho _positive media. Those are the platforms that I'm mostly active on. And also you can send me an email, luceinspiration@gmail. And yeah, so anywhere, I'm everywhere. Easy to find, so
Yeah, and you
definitely.
do journaling workshops as well, correct?
I do. I do journaling workshops. I do online, or I can do it at an establishment. I do have a curriculum in place, so if anyone is interested, I will be there. I am in LA right now, so I can't be everywhere. But if you are based in LA, and I am from the East Coast, so I get to go back there often. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, being the adventurer that you are, you know, let's just go ahead and claim it because you're available globally. So we can make that
I
work.
am available globally. Let's just say that.
Let's just go ahead and say that because it's true.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
is true.
yeah.
It is true.
And so um I'm actually personally looking forward to working with you again and doing some things together.
Hmm.
So we have
Absolutely.
so much more magic to create together.
Yeah, we do. We do. And I'm looking forward to all of it.
So before we
Yeah.
go, will you like tell me something? Tell me something
Hmm.
good. What are you excited about, or what are you celebrating right now? And I ask this because so many times we forget to celebrate the journey. And I do this
Yeah.
clients too, when I talk about, well, what are we celebrating? We usually even start our sessions with, what are you celebrating? Because every step of the journey is important, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I appreciate you asking this question because it brings me to gratitude. We are so busy trying to work to the next moment, and I'm trying to be more intentional about being more present and enjoying every step of the way. I am celebrating myself every single day. I'm celebrating getting to know myself. I'm celebrating being more open and loving and compassionate towards others, my family, my daughters, my partner, my son. Like, I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to be a better person. You know, honestly, that's all I want to be. And I do, right now, I'm in love with teaching. I'm in love with the potential of becoming an educator. I am working towards that, and see how I'm lighting up, because I just love children so much. It's always been a passion for me. So lately, that has been filling my heart up with so much joy. And but yeah, I'm just celebrating being here in this moment and just fully expressing who I am. I just want to express whatever that is at any given moment. I want to be present enough to express it. So yeah.
That's yummy. Mm, mm, mm. Let's just sum it up.
See, that's it. That's all simple.
That's
The
cool.
small things. Yeah.
The simple things that we
Mhm.
appreciate, and what you appreciate appreciates. And that in
Yep.
itself invites more joy in.
Mhm. Truly does.
So yeah, so I'm just gonna close with this, because I really believe that um, we really come in connection with who we are and really get our souls aligned when we move from our head and into our heart.
Oh
And
yes.
yeah, and so I'm gonna close with saying, like, I have this saying, it's like, life is so delicious when our heart is free to make self-loving and supportive choices. And so
Mm.
let's just be intentional about inviting more joy in, inviting more satisfaction in, inviting more gratification in from the inside out, and set your hearts free to be able to really experience a life you love. I'm Melanie
That's right.
Davis, the founder of the Love and Freedom Academy, your self love cultivator, and I'll see you next time. Blessings.
Blessings.